I'm Laurie Timble, and inviting all of you to come down to the March Against Monsanto, May the 24th at the Parkinson Rec Center.
A police car in flames. Another day of violence as protesters clash with police in Egypt's capital. The protests, which were nationwide, were calling for the release of students from prison and for ousted Muslim Brotherhood President Mohammed Morsi to be returned to office. Demonstrators raised a four-finger symbol and chanted anti-government slogans. Friday is the third day in an 11-day campaign launched by the National Alliance for the Support of Legitimacy, a coalition of groups with ties to the Muslim Brotherhood movement. They believe the country is in the grip of a military coup. On top of their list of demands, justice for the protesters killed last year by security forces, a return to what the group calls constitutional legitimacy, and for a democratic Egypt, something they believe the army have blocked. The military-backed government has dissolved the Muslim Brotherhood movement and declared it a terrorist organization. It has been a week of protests not only in Cairo and Alexandria, but also in the far-flung cities of Kafr al-Sheikh in the north and Asyut in the south. The government has responded with more security on the streets. So far, several protesters have been killed or wounded. The police are braced for more unrest as the demonstrations continue. Mohammed Val, Al Jazeera.
Hi there, I'm Jared Howard.
And I'm Robert Nisbet.
We continue to be supported by sponsors like you. And we're bringing you Video Radio talking about Egypt and the way that Egyptians have taken control of their government and, of course, kicked out all of the military-type people.
Of course, it seems the CIA-sponsored destabilization program is working out as usual in the Middle East.
Unfortunately, they can never get a military dictator in to stand for anything longer than 15 minutes. We'll see how that's working out for them. Just think about Quebec's separation.
Continuing on with the Middle East, apparently the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, is having trouble retaining recruits. So they're reaching for a new batch of people.
You know, not everybody supports the Israeli government. No, it's not anti-Semitism to talk about how messed up the Zionists are. And trust me, there's a big difference between your Orthodox Jew and somebody who considers himself a Zionist. Check this out.
This is how many of the streets of West Jerusalem look right now. Traffic has been completely blocked off. Thousands and thousands of ultra-Orthodox Jews have come out for a prayer that is also a protest against government plans to draft more young men from their community into the army. The cabinet already agreed last year that it was going to end an exemption for tens of thousands of yeshiva students. These are religious seminaries where ultra-Orthodox Jews study, and now there is proposed legislation that would see a quota for the number of ultra-Orthodox Jews entering the military or else doing civilian public service. Many here feel that their religious lifestyle is under attack. But for many in Israel's secular majority, changing the law and ending the exemption is about ending an historic injustice and sharing a social burden. When the State of Israel was created in 1948, ultra-Orthodox Jews made up just a tiny percentage of society. But now, because of their high birth rate, they account for about 10% of Israel's population.
Yolande Nell reporting there.
Now, I did take a second to point out the difference. Remember, just because the government says that it supports such a thing and then they say they're a certain thing doesn't mean it's true. Take a look at those Orthodox guys, man.
Yeah, really. They really don't want to serve. I think it's against their religion or something.
Well, you know, they're like peaceful people. They believe in, you know, inclusion, unanimity. Unanimity? Is that a word?
Your guess is as good as mine.
I don't know. Shakespeare made up words when he couldn't figure it out, so why not? Let's make one up right now. Okay.
The Troika and the Eurozone problems continue. Apparently there's a huge problem with austerity, apparently.
Okay.
Obviously, there's a huge problem with the austerity program in Spain that they want to keep imposing on the rest of Europe. And the people of Spain had a few things to say about that as well. They turned up in their thousands to demonstrate what they think of these ideas.
Check this out.
Scores of protesters have once again taken to the streets of the Spanish capital, Madrid. This time it's thousands of students who are protesting against the reduction of scholarships and cuts among professors as part of the latest austerity measures introduced by the Spanish government. Obviously, it's not the first time that students are taken to the streets of Madrid. Just on Wednesday, around 50 people were arrested after they blocked a campus of one of the local universities, burning tires and not allowing anyone inside. But frankly, this whole week, Madrid has been rocked by protests starting from last weekend when thousands of Spaniards from all over the country gathered in the center of the capital, protesting against general economic and social policies of the government, which result in 26% unemployment. And when it comes to these guys, the youth, then it's all the way up to around 50% unemployment. And in fact, many are forced to leave the country and look for jobs elsewhere after they graduate. It's also reported that around 2 million Spaniards heavily depend on state pensions and food banks, and all of that is additional pressure on the economy, while the troika of international creditors are demanding even more job and salary cuts. But at the same time, they're not forecasting any positive changes in this economy in the next 4 years. So last weekend, the major protest rally ended in clashes between the protesters and the authorities, with rocks being thrown around and rubber bullets being fired, with injuries on both sides. This time, so far, it's been pretty peaceful.
Okay, the whole thing about austerity measures is banker accountants come in and say, I'm sorry, we can't give you health care, we can't give you services, we need to make our money, cut back on things for people while we continue to make money for wars, continue to make money for ourselves. That's how austerity works.
And of course, the money they loan to countries like Spain and Greece for a bailout doesn't go to the people. It goes right in the pockets of corporations and banks.
Take a look at what happened down in Argentina, what happened down in Brazil, when the International Monetary Fund walked in, said we're going to give you billions of dollars, but demanded those billions of dollars be given to American corporations to take over natural resources. No, austerity measures don't work. International bailouts are just there to support the same corporations. And if you do your research, it actually gets a little more messed up than that.
Speaking of corporations and natural resources,
good segue.
TransCanada is desperately trying to move the oil out of Alberta.
So the big lie is that this is going to help our economy. Having 35 jobs, a pipeline that is absolutely destroying our environment and doubling the output from the tar sands, the people of Kitimat had something to say.
That's right. They held a referendum to decide whether or not they will allow tar sands oil to be exported from their community.
Activism is winning.
It's not a binding vote, but the people of Kitimat, BC have rejected the proposal that would bring the Northern Gateway pipeline to their coastal town. 58% of those who went to the polls yesterday said no to the giant project. Many are afraid of the environmental consequences of the pipeline and the port development that goes with it. The pipeline would bring crude from Alberta's oil sands to Kitimat for shipment to Asia. Local council will discuss the no vote at a meeting tomorrow. The final decision will be made in Ottawa. For more on the vote and where things go from here, I'm going to speak with Joanne Monahan. She's the mayor of Kitimat and joins me on the phone from there. Though I want to know how important it's been to have this plebiscite in your community.
Well, it's democracy, and I think that other communities probably, if they have an issue like we have, or a similar issue, or something that they think that the community may be divided on, I think that they should try a plebiscite. It certainly gives you an insight of what the people's feelings are.
And that insight, do you think Ottawa is watching it, listening to that no?
I think they're watching it. Whether they're listening or not, I can't tell you.
How do you feel about this proposed project, the pipeline?
How do I feel about it?
Mm-hmm. For your community.
For my community, it's not, I mean, you're asking me a question that I've always said I will listen to the people. So I did.
Well, Mayor, I hope we get a chance to talk again because I think your council meeting will be really interesting. But I want to thank you for your time on this Sunday afternoon.
Thank you, and have a good day.
You too. Joanne Monahan is the mayor of Kitimat, BC.
So, of course, we're waiting to see the government, by the way, and Harper is still trying to push through a pipeline any way he can. Just read in the Globe and Mail on the weekend, the Harper conservatives are a little choked that the Obama administration has put pipelines on the back burner for another year.
Well, there's a lot of controversy over Keystone XL.
And there's no way that they're going to get it put through. Of course, in Alberta and in the United States, cowboys and Indians are getting together.
That's right.
Awesome.
That's not something we saw coming.
No. Out of all the things we didn't see coming, that was none. Cowboys and Indians getting together. I'm loving it. So remember, activism is winning. Fascism is losing. The activism over in Pakistan?
Yeah, they have a bunch of creative people, artists again, are showing the U.S. government they don't like the idea of terror bombing from the skies.
Yes, indeed. The, of course, Nobel Peace Prize winner, Mr. Obama himself, has killed more children by drone strikes than any other Peace Prize winner in history, but they've got something to say.
Well, in an act of protest against drone attacks in Pakistan, a group of artists and villagers have unveiled a giant banner of a young child on a field in a heavily bombed region. Organizers say the child lost her parents and 2 young siblings in a U.S. drone strike. Her picture is large enough to be picked up by satellite imagery.
We're joined right now by Akash Goel. He is one of the co-creators of Not a Bug Splat project. He's also practicing physician at Columbia University, New York Presbyterian Hospital. Welcome to Democracy Now! Explain what this is and why you, a doctor practicing here in New York City, are involved with this vast banner that can be seen from the heavens.
Thanks for having me on the show. Well, I think we were very concerned about kind of how dehumanizing this war by remote control is to begin with. I think when we heard about kind of the language and the lexicon with which it was used, bug splat, we were kind of appalled by the insensitivity of the issue.
Explain. Who used that?
So basically, bug splat refers to a kind of a computer generation of the effects of a bombing, and that includes collateral damage, and which is often civilian life. And so we basically wanted to bring a sensitivity and an awareness basically to the civilian casualties at stake.
And the girl who is pictured there?
Yeah, so she was actually subject to a bombing in 2009. She lost both of her parents and a sibling. So she's a survivor, and you know, we wanted this to kind of be a hopeful project, so we wanted to show survivor. And
the response?
The response has been overwhelmingly positive. I think we've spoken to the hearts and minds of people around the world. I think, you know, everyone is sort of standing with us, and hopefully this will lead to some policy change. I view this as being a global human rights project. It's not a Pakistani rights project or a regional human rights project. I think everybody has something at stake.
Well, Akash Goel, I want to thank you very much for being with us.
So that's kind of cold, you know, when you make a score on a civilian target or a militant target, they call it a bug splat.
Yeah, and then they say that's collateral damage, of course, covering up the inhumanity. War is only sanctified murder. It's only legalized murder. It's just ridiculous to say that we need war at all in a modern age when it's easy for us to feed everybody, create peaceful environments, and educate everyone, and we've got more than enough money to do it. The banks and government, just don't.
So that's our look at pushback around the world, how people are standing up for themselves and showing the powers that shouldn't be how we'd like things to go.
I'm Darren Howard.
And I'm Robert Nisbet.
We are the video makers that should be, and we need your support. Please get a hold of us here at Radio Free Canada on Facebook and start getting involved on how to support these broadcasts, because coming up this year, we're kind of formalizing things a bit. We're expanding our program, we've added on new staff, and now we're going to start stepping out in the public on a regular basis. Is that all we have to say?
I think that's about it.
Okay. So we'll be back. We've got much more to come. Hang on.